Okay, I'm slightly annoyed. I have been doing a video for a while, and all at once my phone did this countdown thing and took a picture. And it's like, wait, what? And then I look, and like the video timer is started all over. It's like, oh fuck, I lost it. Of course I did, because I was jumping around too much. So that's not surprising. So I guess I'll just start all over, and she'll be annoyed at me because of that. Okay, so what hell have I talked about? Oh, I hate it when that happens. Really frustrating. Okay, so it's been rainy all day, and I love this weather, right? And it's like mid-60s. You know, I have a fan in the window pulling air in from outside. It feels amazing. It smells kind of fresh because there is a lilac bush right outside this window. Hi. That is blooming. And big fan. What are you doing? Just look at my bracelets. I'll show you. Oh hey, don't need that on. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you. But yeah, like it smells nice and flowery, and it feels amazing. And I wasn't gonna go anywhere, right? So I'm lying in bed this morning thinking about how it really just feels nice to be in this space, and I don't feel like I've enjoyed being home alone sufficiently like I normally try to when my parents go out of town. I don't know why we're so slurpy all at once. But I was thinking, since it was so nice, maybe I would just stay home and do some cleaning, right? And enjoy the fact that it feels amazing and that we're home alone, right? Okay, that's enough, kid. Yeah, so this morning, get your butt out of my face. Okay, so this morning I woke up at like 3 o'clock, went ahead and fed the dogs, and couldn't go back to sleep. And then at like 4:30 I was still awake, and I started writing a little bit, but then I was like, I'm hungry. And you know, I mentioned yesterday I didn't really eat much of anything. I had a Subway sandwich, and like these 2 coffee cake things in the morning, and that's like all I ate. So then when I was laying there at 4:30 thinking maybe I should fix some toast. Originally I wasn't dying for toast or anything, just if I'm gonna be up in the middle of the night eating, it's usually an easy go-to. Not right now. And so I did that, right? And I came back and I wrote for a little bit, and was just having a hard time falling back to sleep. So while I was up, I went ahead and emailed the piercing place I got, well, that I've gotten all but the bottom 2 piercings done at. Because, you know, my tragus piercing was kind of sore, and I don't know why. There you go. It looks like my freaking opal or something, but it's turquoise. But for some reason, there you go. It doesn't look right, or it looks like it's a different color. But anyway, so you know, I did videos a while back about how at one point the tiger's eye was MIA, and I realized it when I was getting ready to take my brother's dogs for a walk. I ran into their bathroom real quick and stopped and looked in the mirror, and it's like, what the hell is going on with my ear? And it looked like my honest thought was that I had like a massive blackhead in my ear. It's like, what is going on? So then I start messing with it, and I realized that the tiger's eye had disappeared, and it was my piercing. I was like, oh, fuck, where'd that go? You know, so I was all wound up about it, and I didn't want that one to close up. So before I walked the dogs, you know, I got them loaded in the car, but then we had to come back over here so I could put a regular earring in it and make sure I didn't lose the back and risk losing the piercing, right? Because I didn't, like, I paid to have it done. I don't want to keep that one. I mean, I've also paid to have my belly button pierced twice, and I thought about it a third time, but it's like, it was going through scar tissue the last time. I'm not really sure it's ideal to go a third time when I let it close up twice before. But anyway, a couple weeks ago, the tragus, it was all the way healed up, and the post was too long, right? So it was the one they gave me when they pierced it, and it was longer than it should be just because they give room for swelling and all that fun stuff. So a couple weeks ago I decided to see if I could switch that out, and discovered that I could not do that by myself. It had been completely healed, but then when I was messing with it, I got it to the point where it was bleeding, which it didn't take a whole lot to get there. But yeah, and it was like, it started making me kind of nauseous messing with it, so I finally ended up just sticking, well, first I went and asked my mom if she would stick the piercing back in it, like the post back through the hole. And she said, yes, but after, she said, give me a minute and take over on breakfast and let me go to the bathroom and all this stuff. It's like, all this stuff had to happen before she could, like, take 5 seconds to help me stick this post through the hole. So I was just kind of like, fuck it. So I went back to my bathroom, got a regular earring to put in it and keep the hole open, and then started looking around for piercing places that were close and, I thought I could get to relatively easy. The one I go to is in Broad Ripple, and I love it. That's where I've gotten, like, everything done. Well, I mean, not all my tattoos, but I do have some from there. But all my piercings, minus the bottom 2 lobe piercings. And I was trying to see if there was, like, a piercing place in Greenfield, which is a lot closer and easier to get to for me, and they did not have one, but one of the tattoo pages recommended this place in Newcastle. So I ended up going there because I felt like it would probably be easier to deal with traffic-wise than Broad Ripple on the weekend. And, it was fine. I got the tiger's eye replaced, and he shortened the post for the tragus. But then, since I messed with it all the time going into it, and I had the, old crappy earring that was just there to hold for the sake of holding it open, and I had made it bleed, that one ended up swelling, and it's been bothering me for a few days anyway, and it's like I can't clean it real well, and I feel like there's blood crusted under there. So I went back to get the longer post put in. And, well, that was today's project, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, I decided to email the tattoo shop since I couldn't sleep. It was like, 3:30 when I did that, probably. But then I wake up and it's like, oh, I really don't want to go anywhere. It's so nice. It feels amazing in here. And I was thinking about all the stuff I need to do in this space just to clear clutter and all that fun stuff. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll just stay home today. I mean, but that was later. Anyway, while I was getting ready, finally, after I talked myself into getting out of bed at like 11:30, I think I spent some time writing, and I was just really enjoying the weather and, how my room felt. And while I was getting ready, I got a message back from the piercing place, and they said they had spots open from 12:30 to 4. And what time did I want to come in? It's like, well, guess we'll go back to plan A. No, not right now. Which was, of course, go get the piercing fixed, right? So I did that, and this is kind of interesting. Like, I was seeing all these 8s, 9s, 4s, and, you know, all these repeating numbers, and enjoying the rain, even though I was driving in it and trying to steer clear of potholes, because Indiana is awesome with potholes. And on the way over there, or like even before I went over there, I was like, all right, so I started thinking about the ideal scenario. There's 11:11 as I started on this. The ideal scenario for me getting over there, right? And I was thinking it would be perfect if the spot at the back of the the parallel parking spots in front of this little strip, if the back one, was available when I came through there, so I could just pull right in real easy, and that it would stop raining before I got there, so I didn't have to worry about my hair bleeding onto my new shirt, because I freaking love the shirt, and I think it while my hair would probably go with it, I still don't want hair dye on my shirt, right? I was wearing a black hoodie, so it wouldn't have been that big of a deal, but I still didn't want to take any chances on that. So, yeah. And, like, just these little requests that I put out there before I even started going that way. By the time I got there, the car that was parked in the back spot moved out, so I could move right in, like, just that easy. And it stopped raining, I think, like 5 minutes before I pulled onto the road that the tattoo shop is on. And so I, like, walked in, and it wasn't a problem, no rain. I didn't have to worry about any of that. Went to pay for the meter, and I didn't, that one messed me up for some reason, and I didn't realize that I wouldn't have needed to pay anything. I ended up putting like 35 cents in the meter, because it's like, it's going to take me like 10 minutes or less, I bet. But, had all sorts of time to spare. I wouldn't have had to put any money in at all, because whoever had been there before had extra time left. So, all these things just like that I had set the intention for. It's like everything just fell right in line. Just that easy and that quick. It's like, cool. And like, I saw the car that was in the back space as it was pulling out, so it was like perfectly timed, just so I was aware that that was for me, right? And if I hadn't been set on that particular parking space, because this is a little bit of a walk to the shop, but because it's like at the back, and then this place is up toward the front middle section of the strip. There was a spot right directly in front of it, so I could have gone there even, but it's like, no, this other one's just easier to pull into and not have to worry about parallel parking with traffic. So it worked out. And I was all excited because I like these things that I literally set the intention for, like opened up right in front of my eyes. And I have this gift card for Chicken Salad Chick. And there's one of those in Broad Ripple. And I was like, okay, so I only have like $1 or something on this gift card, but still, that, go ahead and use my gift card, right? So I decide to go to this little restaurant. And I go in and as I walk over to the little cooler that they have, you know, cups to go with, you know, family size or individual serving sizes of these different types of chicken salad, egg salad, all those things. You know, I stopped there for a second to see if I wanted to do that route. But I decided I wanted to just go ahead and get my sandwich, right? On a little croissant, because it sounded really good. And I like their mac and cheese. So I did that. And while I'm standing at the cooler looking, there was like a handful of people that just all at once were like, "Oh my gosh, I love your hair." And then like when I looked up, this one guy's like, "Ooh, and your makeup." And like they were all just saying all these nice things and just going on, and for like 5 minutes. Like it was a while. You know, one girl was checking out the back of it and then wanted me to turn around and show the back of my hair to the girl that was running the register. And I felt like a freaking celebrity. It was, it was just so random, but like, you know, it goes back to that whole energetic thing. Like, I feel like some of the encounters that I'm starting to have, like, that is more from a space of people receiving my energy better. Whereas, you know, like my family, it's always to put me in my place, if you will, you know, but these people were like really excited. Just, you know, to brag on my hair, to brag on my makeup and all this fun stuff. And one guy, the one that said something about my makeup, he said, or when he saw my earrings, which these are Eklektikshelf, by the way, he said he wanted to show me some earrings too. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. So, you know, I order my food and, you know, all these people are talking to me in this whole process, and I ended up completely forgetting I had the gift card. I thought about going back in for another cookie, but I'm just like, I'll save it for next time. Maybe it'll take me somewhere else on a whim. But, you know, like the lady that was taking my order, you know, we went through everything, and then, you know, also have like 3 people bragging on my hair at the same time, and she forgot to ask me if I wanted a drink until I put my card in the thing, and then she's like, "It's okay, free drink." It's like, cool. It's just like all these things, and like just people being really nice and things just working out really smoothly, and it was just a whole interesting thing. But, you know, the guy showed me his girlfriend's Instagram page where she's got a bunch of cute earrings. It's like Chunkycatearrings, I think, is the page. So it's like, all right, of course I'll follow. I like cute earrings these days. So, yeah. Randomly start following somebody on Instagram because of I just decided to go to this chicken salad chick place, and, you know, like everything was just like, I don't know, it was just really nice and kind of very welcoming, you know, and it's very uplifting to have those kind of moments, you know, especially when that's not the norm of my life. So, yeah. But one of the things I was thinking about this morning was how I feel like this kind of was part of the lead into the other stuff coming together as nicely as it did. I woke up this morning, I was laying in bed, and I was thinking about yesterday's video, because yesterday I made a comment that I made on here many times before, but yesterday it kind of just hit different. And then when I watched the video last night, it's like, yeah, that's not entirely true, is it? Because what I said was that something about this is how you get to be 41 with nothing to show for it. And it's like, but that's not entirely true, because I don't have the stuff okay, like the family, the home and spouse and all those things that the world would have you believe are necessary to be successful. But it's like, I'm finally starting to discover things about myself that I didn't have space to put together for myself previously. Not right now. She doesn't understand that my video cut off and I had to start all over. But she does not appreciate that we're still doing this. Judgy dog. Get it, girl. Get it, girl. Get it, girl. Oh, she got it. Now, right now, take a break. Take a break. We'll get back to that. I'm in the middle of something. So, you know, like, for example, as I was discussing this stuff in, like, the previous video that I started and then failed, like, I accidentally kicked myself out of, there's, like, I'm starting to find things that I enjoy and that make me low-key happy. Of course, if I would have taken more time after my video cut off, I could have got the dust out of that. So my mom got me this thing. The local rescue that we got my rat terrier from several years ago had a yard sale at some point in time. And my mom ended up over there and got some things for me, and, you know, like a couple of the raised dog beds, and this little thing that for a long time it was just like, excuse the dust, it was in the bird room. You know, like, it's kind of like a beige and khaki kind of colored, and like this was just like the wasn't these two colors, but it was something similar, brown. And I was just looking at it one day, it's like, I could paint that. And this thing is the first thing that I had for a while that I really just stopped and was like, I could do something different with that. It doesn't have to look just like shades of brown and beige, right? It's like, I could paint that. And, you know, like, these are some of my favorite colors, so yeah, that was why I rolled with them. But it needs touched up, obviously, because it's got some it's got some spots that got a little scuffy and some dust and whatnot. But it's like, this is the first thing that I really took a chance on painting differently. It's like, I had that, and it's like, because I had it and somebody gave it to me, it's like, I just felt like, for whatever reason, I wasn't supposed to do anything else. And then one day, it's like, it's in my space, I could paint it, it would be easy. So I decided to take a chance and paint it, right? Well, and what I discovered was I had fun painting it. Then I started thinking about other things that I could paint. And I went to Lowe's at one point, and I'm a big fan of clearance paint. And they had some spray paint too, and that was what started me on these things. But I mean, I don't honestly remember the color that the colors that I got from the clearance paint the first time around. I think these I actually paid regular price for later. But like, I just, you know, went to Hobby Lobby and started finding things, and it's like, I'm just going to find things to paint, right? So, my little hooks, yeah. But it's like, at no point in my life have I really gotten the opportunity to try to dive in more on my own creativity and things that I could enjoy doing, right? You know, and then I started branching out into picture frames and whatnot. So, painted this frame and managed to be on the Halloween poster for roller derby. I really liked this picture because it kind of looks dragony to me. And it was while I was burning a bunch of things that, you know, I just collected over the years. Like, I was one of my purges, I was sitting out there by the fire and I just started taking pictures of the flames, and it's like, well, that's kind of cool. It kind of looks like a dragon. So yeah. And then, you know, and this one, God, there's so much to this one. Like, okay, the bear. This is my picture that won, that I have up there as well, the won the contest. But I had this picture printed out before the contest in this size and just never did anything with it. And I got, I'll go back on, I already did this once, but but we're doing it again, damn it, because I messed it up. Yeah. So the tiger frame, I painted that. Tiger picture I took. The elephant frame I painted as well. Of course, I painted that at the same time as the tiger, so it's the same colors. And then of course my bear, which was it had a wedding picture in it. I think it was my brother and his wife, but actually I think it was an engagement picture, but then it was like, I like this frame and it doesn't fit with anything else that we have, so I'm going to take it over and make it something else. So I did. You know, but like I started getting into painting things, right? So yeah. And like there's so much more in here. You know, fuck it. So this one's mainly just green, black, and some gold. And of course, Poe needed a fancy frame as well. And that's what I'm a big fan of. Right. Yeah. But yeah, like I was just laying there thinking, it's like, at no point before did I ever think that, you know, I could do these kind of things. It's like literally everything that's happened was kind of like an idea that came from outside of me, that was essentially the universe nudging me in the direction I was meant to go in. Shit, even freaking the way I dress, okay? So, like, I remember being in high school and thinking I wanted to do this kind of thing with like the leggings or the shorts over the leggings and, you know, have that be a thing. But I wouldn't do it back then. It's like I wore a whole lot of black or white and not a whole lot of fancy designs. I think my favorite shirt was one that had a bunch of different colored mallets for like percussion instruments in a circle. It's like that was one of my favorite shirts. That it had like the most color that I wore back then, but I was always so afraid of standing out that I just kind of went with the black and white apparel. Otherwise, you know, there'd be a little pop somewhere, but then I'd also have a black jacket or something over the top of it. But yeah, like the whole me coming back into actually wearing this kind of stuff was because I was working at a factory and they said that leggings were acceptable. And initially I didn't go along with it because I didn't have any. But what I did have were some days where I was wearing jeans and was doing so much walking that I ended up, this is so silly, my thighs chafed so bad that I was almost in tears walking out to my car at the end of the day. And then it was like, this ain't gonna work. So, you know, of course, you know, especially if you have anything that's like relatively baggy at all, it's like, it was just, oh my God, it was just bad. But then I was like, okay, well, leggings are acceptable, so I'm going to do that. But I'm also going up on a ladder in front of other people, you know, in a truck or whatever. It's like, I am not going to be standing with my butt at somebody else's eye level and not have more material than just leggings. So I started wearing shorts over them. And also, you know, I needed pockets because I needed pockets, damn it. Yeah, but it's like only because I was working at the factory and had a couple days where I was practically in tears on the way out to the car because my thighs had chafed so bad and I, you know, it hurt so bad. That's why I started wearing the things I started wearing, you know. And then, you know, I was here and had the things, and I liked painting, but I was painting just like things on canvases, and it's like it never becomes anything in particular. It's just a bunch of color on the canvas, really. I mean, I do have one little betta fish thing that's kind of looked like what it was supposed to. But it's like I didn't often take or try to actually let it come to some kind of form. It was just color and throwing a bunch of color on a canvas. And, you know, a lot of times it was because I had so much of these colors left over from something else that I was doing, and I didn't want to just waste it, or put it back in the bottle, so I just like threw it on a canvas, and then, you know, whatever happens happens. But it's like only because of this current space that I'm in with the exact set of I don't know, just everything. Like I already had the paints because I got into painting when I was in undergrad. We had painting parties at the Baptist house, and yeah, like I had some fun with it then. I did one painting that I called Prodigal that I liked really well, and it's mainly colors. But yeah, it's like it all has come up just like very casually, and it wasn't anybody else saying something to me necessarily. It was more the universe just throws a thought out there, and it's like, ooh, I kind of like that, and then next thing I know, I'm going along with it, and interesting things are happening, you know. And like back to this dude. So yeah. I can get the reflection off of there. So I had this picture printed out because I wanted the tigress and the elephant printed out first. I made this one a small one because that's a really good picture, but I liked the other two better, you know, so I didn't have quite as much, or I didn't go for a bigger picture. But then this contest thing comes up, and it's, you know, okay, first off, the series of things to get me in that space too, is like all divine guiding, like all of it, because, you know, never in my life did we ever have a zoo membership until Gracie was over here all the time, and we wanted something to do with her during the summers. So my mom decided to get a zoo membership, and then of course it gets put in my name because okay, if my brother and his wife wanted to take her to the zoo or something, then they were going to I would easily go either way. You know, I could go with her family, or I could go with my mom and my aunt and everybody. So if they had it in my name, I could do whatever. It's just anytime anybody else was going to use the membership, I would have to be there. And I'm the most likely to go along with that anyway, because I like the zoo. You know, but that wasn't something we ever did before. You know, I've been to the zoo several times, and I've always loved being there, and I've always taken a bunch of pictures there. And interestingly enough, when I got to really looking, okay, so the zoo had the contest back in like November, where they wanted submissions of pictures of their animals, right? And so I put in the tigress and the elephant, which I thought were the better two, but I also put in this dude. And then this dude ended up being the winner. But like the only reason I put in for the contest at all was because there was no prize that it spoke of aside from being that they're having the centerfold picture for the magazine. But then I end up winning the thing with this picture. And that's the one from their magazine. Like, it ended up fitting this frame. I just had to cut some off the top and the bottom of it to make it fit. But it's like, even that, like the frame, I ended up painting that after the fact because I liked the frame and I didn't think I was going to paint it because it's that color. But then I was like, but I could like it better. And it seemed like it worked with this is the color shifting paint. So it's like one's like supposed to be blue to purple and the other's green to blue or something, but they both look really damn close, but it's like slightly different on the color shift. But it's like, without Gracie being around, without my mom being motivated to have something for us to take her to do, then that wouldn't have even come together. And it's like the last time, before we started going and taking Gracie, we I think the last time I went was with an ex-boyfriend, the one I thought I was going to marry, because actually we went a couple times. We went to Christmas at the zoo, and we also did this thing with when my aunt worked, the one next door worked as a nurse at one of the hospitals on the south side. They had a family day that was at the zoo. So, even back then I was taking pictures, but I didn't think anything of it. And after I won this contest, I started going back and looking through like other zoo albums that I had, and it's like, I do have some really good pictures on here. Like, I have a really stinking cute picture of a koala cuddled up in a tree, and it's like, I never would have thought anything more about it other than it's just a cute picture, right? And on that note, the reason I have not gotten rid of my Facebook at this point in time is because of all my photo albums that I have on there with the pictures I don't want to lose. But I'll figure that out. I have thought about getting rid of that a few times, just because, mainly because it's where the old connections are mainly. But like the pictures are the reason I won't until I figure something out and can snag some of those off. I don't need every single picture I've ever freaking taken, but at the same time, like when I'm having this issue with my computer the past few months where it's like low on memory because there's so many pictures and whatnot, it's real easy to just have them on. Is it on Facebook? Okay, then I don't need it on my computer, right? So it's kind of serving that purpose at this point in time. And I did buy like extra storage and everything, but still gotta have so much of it available before the things work together well to make posting videos easier. And I wasn't deleting my videos for a long time, mainly because, going back to when I first started the channel, and like the first, I want to say like 7 or 8 videos that I did back then, like after I did these videos, I had to take a break. When I took a break, I was afraid of them staying out there where anybody could find them when I wasn't doing anything else with them, right? So I ended up deleting them all. Well, then when I start back up in March of last year, it was like, well, I feel like I need those back up. So I went ahead and reposted them. But then it's still really annoying because I have all these things that say originally posted on this date, but it's like, yeah, but now we don't have any evidence that that was actually when I started. Or like the first video is like when I went back to post the others or repost the others, it was like, I didn't like that one. I think the pond just farted. I just heard a bubble. But I get distracted by pond farts. Oh, well, like the first one that I did, where I was terrified of doing the thing. Okay, like I went live on Instagram for less than a minute, and afterwards I cried because it was so traumatic, because this is something that, like, you know, my whole life taught me that I was not supposed to use my voice, and there was like bad things could happen if I did, right? So then I kind of broke the ice with this live on Instagram thing, and like two people I think saw it at all, and then I deleted it, right? But when I started on YouTube, it's like I realized that it's like my train of thought is like incredibly scattered. And I figured, all right, well, if I'm going to do this thing, then I was going to do it and have something scripted. So like the first one I did was scripted, and I was all anxious sitting by, you know, Tyler's gravestone, because, you know, it was for moral support from beyond, right? But I sat by his grave and I read this thing, and it ended up being like a half hour or something, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but I still, I think, was pretty harsh against myself for that being my start point. And it was like, well, but I don't like it, so I'm not going to put it back out there. I wish I never would have deleted the things that I had deleted, because, you know, I liked having original dates on them. So when I say that I started my channel on 11/11/23, that would have had a date that supported that. But, you know, especially since I didn't even save that video and repost it, you know, everything else would, you know, it's a March date, but originally posted 11 whatever 2023, you know, it loses something to me. So we just all at once were like staring at the door really hard, and I wasn't sure what was happening. Peppy's coming to visit. Yeah, but it's like all these things, I wouldn't have had the space to really start piecing it together like I have, and it's been really freaking slow. You know, like I've talked about it many times, like this whole paint job in here was literally just because I had wall damage up here. You know, I had like 16 holes in the wall from this DVD case that my dad couldn't find the stud in the wall to hang it in or on, and so he just like gets pissed and goes down the line just every inch or so, putting a hole in the wall until he found it, right? So then when we moved the DVD case, I see all these holes again. It's like, well, I gotta fix that. I can't leave it as it is. But then I didn't have any more of the color paint that I originally had, but I had this collection of rainbow paints from Gracie's Rainbow Wall that they didn't want the paint any longer when they were going to move. So it's like, well, if you don't want the paint, don't leave it at the house. I'll take it. You know, I like free paint. I like cheap paint, you know, and it's given me space to find projects. And then, you know, like only through, you know, because I had holes that needed to be repaired and didn't have a whole lot of any one color, but I had a bunch of several colors. Oh, my phone's getting ready to die now. Well, it's 15%. You know, that's the reason I did what I did in here. But it's like, this space makes me happy now. So it's like, everything is really just trying to guide me to where I'm meant to go, right? But, you know, I had several videos where I've made the comment of, that's how you get to be 41 and have nothing to show for it. But it's like, in reality, the things that I don't have, or like, yeah, the stuff that I'm thinking of when I say that I don't have anything to show for it, it's like, okay, the stuff that I've basically been conditioned to think that I need to have a worthwhile life, right? Like the spouse, the job, the car, the family, the things like that, right? And since I don't have those things, I've let it... Don't throw stuff on CB. You know, I let it have me convinced that it meant that I didn't have anything to show for it. But it's like, I'm at 41 finally starting to figure things out with like the creativity and like the things that I am enjoying on that end. And I mean, yeah, it's not for everybody, but I've never been for everybody. I was never supposed to be for everybody, you know, but I just let it keep me from doing anything because the people that I've been around most consistently aren't the ones that are meant to be with me long term, right? And it's been a really long term that we have been together, but we're kind of at that point now where it's like, I know it's like all the connections are just like closing off. And like with my family, you know, I've talked a lot about like, especially my parents, it's like I feel like when I'm gone, I'm done here. And you know, even that is intentional, right? You know, I've talked about how it feels like when I'm with these people, it's like there's like this glass ceiling keeping me from the life that I'm meant to have and the space that I'm meant to be in. And it's like, because of this conditioning and, you know, like these ideas that because I don't have X, Y, and Z, that means like I'm completely just unsuccessful at life in general. But I mean, to be honest, there's a good chunk of people that never get to figure out what they are into, you know, and like it's taken me a long time to be able to separate out the stuff like with the conditioning that I was conditioned to believe to be true because I didn't have these things. But it's like, I know where I'm going is meant to be immensely better than most people ever will see, just from the standpoint of most people just think, you know, we're conditioned to settle for the bare minimum. And, you know, because, you know, we don't want to have to work for the things, you know, but it takes a lot of work to really get to discovering what you enjoy and figuring out how to make a life where that is an important element of life, is doing things that you somehow enjoy, meant to have in your life, right? I'm going to pause this and take these assholes to play real quick so I can charge my phone a little bit. I will be right back. Okay. But like, how many people don't even get the opportunity to really explore those things for themselves and figure out what it is they want from life, right? You know, because my whole life has been spent doing what I thought I was supposed to in order to be happy, and never found the happy. You know, and I mean, not until, you know, I really started doing this healing stuff, and then it's not really happy per se, but as I'm maneuvering through the healing part of this stuff, you know, it's like, I don't know if I think this light kind of sucks, but I mean, the light sucks in general because it's getting dark, but, well, I mean, it's 6:15, so, and since I have to, my phone's at 18%, so it's like I can't stay by the window, at this point in time, but it's like, used to I mean, even like early on when I was starting this channel, you know, a lot of my channel has been focused on how my family was the problem for me, or keeping me from figuring myself out. But in reality, it's like they're doing what they think they're supposed to do to have the life they've been conditioned to believe that they're supposed to have, right? But really, the conditioning, you know, especially the way the system has it now, is just, it's literally set up so only a few people can thrive, and everybody else is basically in some kind of energetic slavery that we can't break out of, you know, because we can't get the opportunity to really get to know ourselves and figure out what we enjoy and figure out how to make a life with the things we enjoy, right? So yeah, I really just need to stop saying that I'm 41 with nothing to show for it, because honestly, I feel like as I've stepped back and have started considering this stuff more today, it's like there's a lot of people that don't get this opportunity to figure their own shit out, and, you know, to figure out why life hasn't gone the way they might have imagined it to be, or to imagined it could be. So yeah, I was thinking, I took the dogs outside to play for a couple minutes, so Gidge is a little tired at the moment. She's panting at the end of the bed, and they're at least leaving me alone. But I was thinking while I was out there, it's like, those Butterfinger flurries really sounds good right now. I might be going over there here in a little bit. But yeah. I was thinking, before I started back to the video, you know, I remember when I was in high school, I had this thought of, it would be kind of cool if I found out that I've been leaving myself clues for the path all along, you know, and then one day really figure out the path because of the clues that I've been leaving for myself. It's like, yep. I feel like that's very much what's been going on, right? And I just had a thought of, it would be awesome if I put a phone charger over behind the mattress by the window so I could plug it in over there if I was having issues, rather than at this one by the bed. But yeah, you know, that's like literally been the case. Like the one I go back to for when I was in high school, I was taking this English composition class, and it was for college credit my senior year. And one of the little projects we did was, see, I don't remember if it was one that the whole class had to do the same kind of thing, or if it was like a certain type of writing thing, and I went from the standpoint of my name meaning, you know, but of course, okay, Sarah means princess, and Lynn, I think it depends on the translation, can be like waterfall or just a body of water, you know, but I, of course, love waterfalls, so I rolled with waterfall, right? So I did like this, I don't know if it was like a poem or something. I think it was a poem. And it was like Princess of the Waterfall or something. But I remember thinking back then, especially with my first name meaning princess, it's like, what if this was my name because I spent so many years with the suicidal ideation that it was kind of a sort of reminder that I have much more value than I was capable of believing myself to have back at that point in time, right? So because I was going to struggle with suicidal ideation for like a ridiculous amount of years, that was my name to remind me that I had more value than I was capable of having an awareness of. So, you know, and I like, especially just that point of leaving myself little clues, like little breadcrumbs along the way, like my little alien dude. I don't even remember where that guy came from, but he works right there, so, yep. He's got like a little beanbag. Yeah. In the bat wing. But anyway, and my octopus. My steampunk octopus, because that's badass. I bought that on Etsy, but I'll tag it in the description, the shop name, because I don't remember where it came from, but I got a bunch of stuff from them. Yeah, so I was like all the pieces to point me in the direction of Philadelphia, like I've talked about, right? So, you know, and like these things have literally been following me for years of my life. And, you know, I've talked about even like my brother said, well, we're almost 30% German, something. I don't know if he's playing around on like the ancestry thing or whatever. So, nice thing is, since we have the same parents, my mom had him do the thing with the cheek swab or whatever, and then sent in the information, or sent in into the DNA thing, and they ran it, and I don't know, I'll figure it out after I'm done on here. But look how chill she is. Their leg all propped up on the thing. Did you like a beer? But yeah, like going back to that Philadelphia piece, like the weirdest one being this puzzle that my aunt and my uncle were really excited to give me like a decade ago, and I was just like, why the fuck did you get me a Philadelphia skyline? But, you know, then I'm cleaning the closet a few weeks ago and put my hand on it and immediately know what it is, and it's like, because I'd already made that connection by that point that Philadelphia is somewhere that I meant to go eventually. And it's like, okay. So that's why they were all excited to get me this puzzle, because some energetic level, it was a reminder of this other life that's like calling to me now, right? So it's like all these little things are starting to come together and take on a whole new meaning that I never would have let myself believe, really. I feel like this is a really shitty angle. I'm all slouchy, but I don't have a whole lot of phone cord. Okay, I got a little more now. But yeah, there's Tyler in the background. But yeah, like all these little things, it's like, it makes more and more sense that the whole thing's been divinely guided, and I'm just now making sense of it. You know, and even when I did the live thing on Instagram for the minute that I ended up deleting, it's like the stuff that I was excited to talk about was the same kind of stuff, and it's like bringing it back to how like all these things like way out here are actually coming together on this like perfect path to get me where I'm meant to be going, you know, and like the little clues along the way have always been there. You know, I've talked about the okay, I mean, we can go back to, yeah, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna get them. Hold on. Okay, she's got a whiff of bleach from these things. That's from like forever ago. Well, I mean, not forever ago, like sometime in the past few months. But you know, I've talked about like these damn gem dolls over and over again, right? And this one, I feel like's kind of been my, I mean, they kind of go to on the hair, because most of them have like a solid one color. Like I think Kimber had the red hair. Aja was I don't know, one was blue, one was purple. You know, but like, she had a bunch of them, right? And of course, the makeup, brightly colored makeup as well, and the outfit, of course. And then, you know, I talked about how I felt like I was supposed to keep these two, and it's like my, you know, like, when I fully embrace all my colorfulness, and then my shadow aspect that, you know, is still kind of flashy in and of herself, right? Stripes and spots, I don't know about that, but yeah, her top got a little bleachy, but whatever. And I don't know what's going on, but her posture is just like shit these days. So yeah, but like, I cleaned those up for Gracie to play with, and then like a while back I got this really strong sense that I needed to pull these two out and keep them in my space, and it's kind of like making space for my inner child to, you know, have the things that we loved way back then still around, right? You know, and then even I just happened to see these on the bookcase that is still unorganized in the office that the gem dolls were on. My little Care Bear dudes. Okay, so Cheer Bear was one of my favorites, but of course it's pink, so of course Grumpy Bear was another big favorite. You know, and then there's a little Bedtime Bear dude. It was like, even that, it's like, if we want to just look at these two, could be kind of, I mean, we could say one could be the shadow aspect there too, because like nobody likes the grumpy parts, right? But yet they're not bad. But we get this sort of ridiculous idea that we're supposed to always be happy and cheerful and, you know, things. Oh crap, I didn't mean to invite you up into my lap. Ouch. Just punched me in the eye. Will you please stop? Oh, literally punched me in the eye. No. But yeah, oh. This one's kind of fun. Okay. So my little Nightmare Before Christmas dudes, right? When I went to see Luke Severide, he made some crack about the people that, you know, were so into this movie and like never moved beyond it. It's like, I mean, I guess he'd probably assumed that I'm one of those people that just like got really into it, never moved beyond it. But like, honestly, I didn't get into this until like the past 10 years. Honestly, I wouldn't let myself watch that stuff because way back when I was going to church and all that bullshit, I had myself convinced that just because of the dark part of it, you know, that the dark atmosphere of it, that it was somehow bad or whatever. And it's like, I love that movie. You know, I love Tim Burton things. I got a nice collection over on my my shelf. Coraline, Nightmare Before Christmas, Frankenweenie. Oh, yesterday I had the Frankenweenie. Well, I had leggings on that were just different Tim Burton dogs. And there's Frankenweenie, and then the poodle from that movie that was the Bride of Frankenstein, if you will, but Frankenweenie version. And then the dog from Corpse Bride, and will you stop? And Zero. I like that little Zero. He's cute. And then my little Tazzy up here, of course. My brother and sister-in-law got me for that on one of their trips. And then the little bat dude was from Cracker Barrel. And look, his one-sided fang. But it's like, you know, it's like I spent my entire life thinking that I had to run from all things darkness kind of idea because the darkness was somehow bad, because that's what church brainwashes you into think. But it's like, as I'm navigating the shadow aspects of myself, I'm discovering there's a lot to love there, actually. You know, and I like this, like these little things that I'm discovering about myself. And I really like that frame. how the colors blended together on that one. I don't know if I can't zoom. Oh, here. Yeah. It was like orange, burgundy, and black, and a little bit of gold. It was like, I like how it turned out, but again, it's like, just because I started with clearance spray paints and then, ooh, what could I paint this color? You know, and like I have a bunch of stuff in here that I've painted, you know, namely picture frames, but, you know, there's a couple things that I'm using as plant stands. But they're kind of buried, so I won't go to those. I mean, I tried in the last video. I don't think I retried in this video yet to show this. Let me just throw the things off of it. Peppy is still excited to think that her mom and dad are going to be back today, and they're not. Hey, I found change. Woohoo! I love this lamp. Okay, hold on. Kindly disregard the clutter, but yes, the black and kind of eggplant and orangey color, and it's dusty, so excuse that, but this was my great-grandmother's old lamp, and it used to be like this olive drab kind of color. It was horrendous, and it was in the shed for years, right? And then my phone's at 23%, so I'm wandering away from the the charger. It'll yell at me again, but that's all right. But I'll come over here where there's better lighting. That's just coming up. But yeah, it's like that. It was this horrible olive drab kind of color. And it was in the shed for a long time. And then one day I was out there, and it was after I started painting frames and stuff, and it's like, I could paint that. And I brought it up into the garage, and then my mom came in one day, and I was like, hey, what are you going to do with this? And she's like, I don't know. She said, I said, do you care if I paint it? And she said, are you going to use it? It's like, if I paint it. And she's like, well, then paint it. So now, like, I took over my lamp. That, like, this lamp used to be my great-grandma's. And it was like, if my great-grandma was here seeing that I painted it, she probably wouldn't appreciate how it turned out. But being on the other side, I'm pretty sure she supports the creative things. And the things that bring me happiness too. So, like that lamp especially, like it's having some angular issues. It's got a little bit more of a lean, and I think something needs to be tweaked on it. But I don't know. I haven't really worried about it too much because there's just a bunch of stuff over there that's got to be cleared out anyway. But you know, it's like, dude, you all right? Water went down the wrong way. But yeah, like even that was funny. Like when I had the shade outside and was painting that part, you know, I put it, we have like these little boxes that we get from Sam's Club that have like grapes, or have like 6 packs of grapes or whatever in it. And then we end up hanging on to them because they're really handy to have in the car. Or if they're in the garage, I will randomly flip those over and use them in the grass and spray paint whatever I'm doing in the grass, right? So I had gotten a clearance plant at Walmart. It was a mum, and it was this, as is lilac bush, right? And then I had this lampshade out there, and it's this eggplant kind of color, this aubergine, if you will. And you know, I started looking at the similarities in colors, and it's like even the shirt that I was wearing that day. Hey, I think I have that shirt over here. I do, but it's got a bunch of stuff on top of it. It's my Lover's Tarot shirt, but it was like the same damn color. It was like everything all at once, right? So there's a few other things. I'm not gonna find it. Anyway, it's like, so just like as I put these pieces together, like things that have taken me years to really discover that I love and love to do, and like this painting things, and you know, like my wall space even. It's like a lot of people don't get the opportunity to really embrace their creative side and find things they enjoy doing on that end, you know. And because of this current living arrangement and trying to distract myself away from the chaos that is my family situation, it's actually helped me to start kind of maneuvering through these other creative things that I wouldn't have been able to think about otherwise, right? So it's like literally a whole line of breadcrumbs that I've been following my entire life. And, you know, I kept wandering off from, so like that's one of like the biggest things is, you know, I've talked a lot about how 111 how it's always been essential for me to learn to trust myself. And it's like I was always receiving these little pieces of information, like the little glimpses of things that I wanted along the way and would eventually find, but then I would talk myself out of them because of whatever conditioning from the world. And it's like, no, you can't have these things because the world says you're not supposed to, or whatever, right? So it's like, since I've been meandering through this unraveling of like the toxic mindset, I've freed up enough space that I've been able to look at it and realize that there's literally breadcrumbs all throughout my life showing me, like, if you just pay attention, you know, you will see these things and they will all come together for like this perfect, beautiful story, right? And like even that, like the whole writing thing, you know, that I've always gotten really hung up by. It's like I'm realizing that a lot of what I needed to do in this YouTube space has been clearing things out and making room to make the connections that I've been making on here, you know. But then it's like, even this, like, I never know what I'm going to talk. I mean, I might have an idea of things that I want to address in a video, but it's like I don't necessarily know exactly what I want to say until as I'm piecing it together. But then as I go back and rewatch it myself, I make connections from the things that I'm talking about in the video. It's like, oh, well, then that makes me think about these things, you know, and then, hey, potential other video because I was thinking about these other things. Right? But, like, you know, I've talked on here a lot about how I got really into those When God Writes Your Love Story and When God Writes Your Life Story books by Eric and Leslie Ludy back in undergrad, and how, you know, I kind of back then remember I set the intention that I wanted that kind of story, right? I wanted one that, you know, God writes the love story and the life story and all these things. And then finding that, you know, it all comes to, or it's been coming together, and at times it's been very difficult, but it was all for this bigger story that I'm meant to share with the world, right? And that I am, you know, I'm giving the glimpses of it in this version, and, you know, also actively showing my healing process. But then one of these days, when I actually have the information necessary to put it in book form coherently, and I promise it'll be more coherent than it is when I talk on here, because I do write better than I talk. I mean, but even that, you know, like, It's just being able to refer back to it and be like, oh, that's a hot mess. Don't make it sound like that. But lots of revision and whatnot. And this is just talking the first time through and figuring out where it goes and what we have to address today or whatever. But yeah, like even, I've talked about like the whole twin flame thing and like all the breadcrumbs on that end even, so I didn't even know who this person... Okay. 2019, I had, as I was getting ready to leave my ex for the last time, I had a dream, and Tyler appeared to me in the dream, and it was similar to what had happened in real life, except he was in a different location. Like, he was still in a hospital type setting. I mean, it was like a house, but there was a hospital set up in the room, but the walls were purple. And the first time I go in there was exactly like the first time. There's no third time in reality. The third time ultimately was at his funeral. But in the dream, I passed him as he was walking away. He like walked down the sidewalk and was walking past me, and I knew it was going to be the last time that I ever saw him. And I kissed him because I knew it was going to be the last time I ever saw him. And he said something to me and then walked away and just disappeared, and that was it. And it's like, it drove me nuts because I could never remember what he said. And then one day I finally was like, you know what? I will remember when it is time for me to remember. That's just all there is to it. So I'm not going to just like forever kick myself about it. I thought about it frequently, and I've written about it several times, but that was in 2019 before I left my ex that last time. And I wanted to say it was like the last week. And there was like this other thing that I had this dream where I don't remember if I was one of three or if I was with three others, but I was with three other women, and we were in like this pool, but it was like a castle kind of a... It makes me think of like, I don't know, like the Cleopatra's coming to mind, but I don't know if that's like accurate. But like it's part of the castle, and yet the pool goes out into the open air, but there's also walls on two partial sides and then the back side, and like there was like this big crystal chandelier over the pool, and it seemed like a bunch of really fancy stuff. And it's like I'm sure there's more meaning to this. I feel like I'm starting to connect that with like future friend, like people that I know who they are and that I know that we're supposed to be friends, but we're not there yet. But they're in like this social media space where I know who they are, but they don't know who I am yet. So it's like all these different things. But that dream came up around that same time, like that last week that I was in Alabama. And like, okay, so then had the dream, left Alabama for good. There was drama with dealing with the ex and, disconnecting all of that. And then there's been drama with healing and figuring out how I got into the situation with the ex to begin with, which goes back to the toxic family system, and then in 2019, I was listening to Octane and found out that one of my favorite bands was going to be on tour, and this other band was going with them. And, I was introduced to them on the radio with a song, and the song that I heard on the radio, I absolutely loved, like immediately, and then in 2020, I had this thought of, I don't want any other social media. What more do I need than Facebook? Because everybody I know is already there anyway, right? And then I get this really strong sense that I'm supposed to get on Instagram. It's like, I don't know why, but here we are. So I did the thing, because of this random whim that came up along the way. And then, then I encountered this dude's energy in a live stream, like 2021, I guess it was, based on some of the other information around the situation. And it's like it activated all these other things that like started happening, and like, this big healing journey that I've been on the past few years, but even then it's like I made a joke about maybe I should manifest one of those, referring to this person, and then somebody that I was barely friends with at the time, like we met on, it was an online class kind of a thing that me and her and this other girl, we all connected through this group, but then we all ended up bailing on the group because we ended up realizing we didn't really like the idea behind the whole thing. It's like, yeah, this isn't for me. So we all ended up bailing from it. But then this one girl that I was talking to, I made the comment to her about maybe I should manifest one of those, and she was less than supportive, and I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And it's like, oh, and he's a Leo anyway, and the last Leo I was involved with didn't go well. So, but then like there were all these other little things that started coming up, and it wasn't until 2023 where like this, after I I set the intention that the universe take the lead on my love and career life, and then was brought back to this person as like the twin flame, and it was like this voice was all excited, and that's the one you've been looking for. And it's like, but he's out of my league. And it was just like that quickly too. It's like, this thing comes up where I'm listening to the song that he did online, and then this voice pops in and says, that's the one you've been looking for all your life. It's like, but he's out of my league. And the response was, are you going to let us do this, or are you going to do it your way again? It's like, well, I mean, what do I have to lose? Because clearly, dude's out of my league, but I mean, that's obviously, even that, like, I've talked about that one dream so many times where, I was sitting on a couch in this room with my ex, and Ziva was on my lap, and she was snarling at my ex, and it's like I was really angry at my ex, but then there's these 4 guys from this band on stools behind the couch, and it's like it didn't come to me until later that the reason they were on stools and we were on this couch was because we were at this lower level energetically. It's like I later put the pieces together that, they're at this other level, but they're also, in putting their energy out into the world, it's also a means of helping me to shift from this lower density and, be able to make it to this higher space where I will eventually connect with these people, right? But, it's like, the twin flame was one of the guys on the chair, and it was like, I remember when I had the dream, I was just really confused as to why they were there. And then later, I had the sense of, because I started being able to go back into the dream, which, weird in of itself, I know. But like I think the next time in, I realized that my ex was just like a leech on my energy, and like literally he wasn't supposed to be there, and the only purpose he was serving was to keep me from being able to step into a higher way of being. And I remember, I was kind of talking to the twin flame in the dream, but like he couldn't focus on me. He was just kind of talking to me from this far off space, and he said, if you need my help, let me know. But he couldn't look at me at all. And I looked at him, and I said, first, I feel like I'm supposed to do that, or like I need to do this on my own. But then later, when I started thinking about that part of the dream, then it's like, wait a second, so I don't have to do this whole thing by myself, you know, and then it's like, well, all right, then looking for assistance, right? So then I had the thing where I was at the celebration of life for the family friend, and that couple that my parents had been friends with this other couple, you know, there was like 3 couples way back when, and the 2 that we sat with outside, they hadn't, whenever they pass each other in the community or whatever, they're friendly, but like they weren't really, hadn't been close in years, kind of a thing. But they were all hanging out at like the high school reunions and whatnot. So anyway, celebration of life. We're sitting there with this couple, and it's like 90 degrees on this day in June, and we're outside under this little canopy thing. And the husband comes over to the other side of the tent because, you know, he's got the sun beating right on him, so he comes over to the other side of the tent, and I'm sitting there next to my mom, and I remember he just started making me uncomfortable, and he wasn't saying or doing anything. There was just something about it that was making me really uncomfortable. And so I started thinking about like the stuff that we talked about from class about, you know, using your energy to fill up a space, kind of a thing. And it's like, okay, well, how do you do that? So I'm kind of working through it, and then I remember this dream, and it's like, hey, he's making me uncomfortable. How can we make him, you know, go away or at least go back to his seat, right? And it was like within 30 seconds, like he looks uncomfortable, and he goes back to his chair and sits down, and then like within 2 minutes he looks at his wife and says, "We need to leave." And it's just like that quick. And it was just like, huh. You know, but it was like as soon as I asked for assistance, you know, and I'm thinking twin flame, and you know, it's like ultimately, I mean, it goes back to that one soul thing, and you know, 2 parts of one, but ultimately like the 2 energies coming together create this third energy, which is essentially this divine God love energy, right? And so, you know, putting this ask for assistance out there opened it up for the universe to take control, and suddenly the guy's gone. It's like, cool. You know, and it's like literally all I did was, hey, he's making me uncomfortable. What can we do to fix this? And then, you know, within 2 minutes he's gone. It's like, okay, that's kind of neat. You know, but then the next time I went, well, I don't know if it was the next time, but like one of the next times I went into the dream, it was like we were looking at each other, but it was like through a fog. And then there was another time where it's like he was finally able to see me clearly, but like when like we were like locked eyes and everything, it was like he saw completely through me, and it was just like this whole rush of energy like just passed through my body, and it was like this whole weird experience in and of itself too. So but yeah, like just all these little breadcrumbs along the way, you know, and like being able to go back into the dream has also been a part of this, where it's like pointing me further in the right direction, and, you know, keeping me on the path. And, you know, like because of that stuff, because I've made the connection with the family, and I'm healing from all this stuff in this space around me, and have this other thing that's kind of pulling me along now, it's like I'm gonna end up where I'm meant to be. Like even right now, I'm divinely planted where I am to be able to figure some of this stuff out, so I can break through and get to this other part for my life, right? And be able to, you know, be able to have the financial situation that allows me to move to the place that I'm supposed to be. It's been following me around in various ways. You know, and like a lot of what I've talked about on this channel is for this purpose as well. It's like you know, like the, gosh, the things I've talked about with him, the things that have been hints along the way, you know, and even like going back to the freaking Gem Dolls, you know, it's like I was so into that show when I was little, and you know, if you would have told me back then that it was because it's literally like showing various aspects of my future, I mean, that was the whole thing too, so that's kind of crazy, but you know, my brother and I were talking earlier today. He said something about feeling a lot better around here with my mom out of town, and I said, it's noticeable, isn't it? It's like, since like my mom and my dad and my grandma are out of town, this town feels immensely lighter already. It's like, wow. You know, I really have enjoyed this opportunity when they're, you know, not in the house. And I mean, obviously it's their house, so if they wanted to throw me out, they could, but luckily for me, that's not the case, and it won't happen until I'm good and ready for it. But I mean, it could happen at the end, but we'll see. You know, that day I told my mom that she had to, at some point it had to be okay for my grandfather to die. I was surprised she didn't throw me out then. You know, and that, I ended up coming back home and having this conversation with my dad about this whole thing, and got a really strong sense that he wouldn't allow that to happen. But not because we have any kind of decent relationship by any means. It's just like, yeah, it's not going to happen. And then it started, you know, he started talking about things that aren't right with the connection he has with my mom even. It's like, there's a whole lot going on that I'm glad I don't have to know about. And definitely glad that I don't have to be affected by it. But like, okay, like the kitchen table situation. This comes up because my brother and I were talking about like that earlier. I said something about this evening I was probably going to spend some time cleaning, and he said something about the table, and I was like, oh, I'm not cleaning the table. That shit's not mine. It's like, I'm going to be cleaning the shit that's mine. And, you know, getting rid of stuff that's mine to get rid of, and, you know, go from there. But yeah, it's like, I'm not going out of my way to do stuff for them anymore because, you know, like, you know, I talked about the other day. Okay. I had a bunch of shit in the living room, and my aunt and uncle were coming over. So I spent time cleaning that space because my stuff was in it. I did not clean the kitchen and the family room or my dad's bathroom because I don't use those rooms. I mean, I go into the kitchen periodically, but I am not in there very much at all because that's where my parents hang out all the time, and I'm not trying to spend the extra time with them because we're disconnecting. You know, and it's like, it's very clear that they're not shifting timelines. They're staying where they're at. They're annoyed that they can't pull me back into their negativity and, you know, keep me in the ickiness that they choose to stay in. It's like they just can't, because I don't want that for my life anymore. That's literally been the majority of my life, and I don't want it. So, yeah. But it's like, because of that, I don't want to spend time around them, right? So then my parents go over to my brother's house and meet with my aunt and uncle there when they were getting a recliner from my brother. And then they came back over here for dinner. And since I didn't go to my brother's house, my mom thought I was just going to stay over here and clean up. I didn't. I did my video, and I think I watched the video I'd done earlier in the day, and then, you know, got it posted and all that fun stuff. But, you know, she comes back and completely, she knew the one room was clean. She did not take them that way. She takes them in through the garage, which is like hella messy. And, you know, I've spent a lot of time working over in there in the years that I've been back, but, you know, it's, one person can't do it alone, especially when the other two aren't making it any better. And, you know, my mom, her thing is just keep buying more junk to have in this space, like we're somehow benefiting if we just have all the shit that we don't use. And we're not. It's just keeping us from being able to move into the higher timelines because it's something keeping you bound to the density. So, let me go ahead and plug my phone back in before it starts yelling at me again. Where am I at? 13%. Yeah. But yeah, like when I didn't have it cleaned up further when she came in, it was clear that I annoyed her with that. Now, she starts like, like a crazy person trying to get all this stuff off the table. And it's like, man, it is a shame we did not know company was coming. And when I was in the other room, because of course they didn't have room for me at the table with everything else that was going on and everybody else that was here. It was my aunt and uncle and my mom and dad and Gracie. And the table theoretically sits like 8, but there was at least one other chair available at that point in time, but it was not accessible. It was like, kind of like, oh, well, this is good enough, so I don't have to do any further. It's like, yep, no worries, I'm going to eat in the other room anyway. But even Gracie was like, where are you going to sit? Why aren't you staying in here? It's like, I have something else I'm doing in the other room, right? But then I go in the other room and I hear her talking to my aunt behind my back about how I'm, basically useless because unless she says something, it's like she doesn't ever help out unless I tell her to. It's like, that is where you're incredibly wrong. Because every time I've ever gotten to the point where it's like, I've always been of the mindset, I don't mind dirt if it's my dirt. Like, if I know the clutter in here is my stuff, it's eventually going to bother me and I'm going to clean it up. But it might take a little longer to get there. Whereas if I come into somebody else's clutter, it bothers me a lot more. Or somebody else's dirt, if you will. It bothers me a lot more and I'll prioritize it. And so, it's not my dirt, so we're going to clean that dirt and get rid of it. But yeah, every time I've ever gotten to that point with my room, it's like, all right, this clutter is bothering me. I'm going to do something about it. It's like my mom comes in the door and says, you need to clean your room. It's like she knows that I had this thought, and so she shows up just to say the thing because she knows that as soon as she says the thing, then I can't do it. It's like, why did you say anything? And it's always been that way. Like, I remember saying that specifically to her. I think I was in high school. It's like, why did you say anything? I was getting ready to do it. Now I can't do it. And it's like, she knew that. She's always known that. So then for her to turn around and, tell my aunt that I only did it because she said something, it's like, oh, that's a whole load of shit right there. That's not accurate at all. So, yeah. Look how cute that kid is. I get it. But yeah, anyway. I'm going to wrap this up, and I think I'm going to go get Frosty Boy because I want a Butterfinger Flurry, and, I mean, clearly it's not necessarily a need, but if it's in that category of, will this make me happy at the moment? Yes, it will. Okay, then I'm going to do it. So, I'm going to go do that. Yeah. Anyway, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time. See ya.